Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Mike.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Nate.
And this is 42, the answer to life, the universe, and everything.
We didn't bring our towels.
I know. None of us have our towel with us, so we're all deeply unprepared.
I mean, mine are just over there.
But I would say to you, don't panic.
But I don't have one of the fish. Goes in my ear.
Are you understanding what I'm saying?
I seem to be.
Then clearly you do.
Okay.
You have your babelfish.
All right, there we go.
So, this past summer, I turned 42.
Well, that makes a lot more sense than discussing a sci-fi series by an author who did not put any sort of, pro-religious-y things in there as far as we know.
But just wait.
Okay.
I received a 42-themed card.
Okay.
Don't panic. Life, the universe, and everything. I received a sticker, 42, and then written a little below, life, the universe, and everything.
But if you just put it on your car, people think you ran 42 miles.
Yeah, I prefer the 0.0 I don't run stickers. Mm-hmm. That's much more my speed.
Mm-hmm.
If you find one, pick one up for me as well.
You got it, buddy. Our friends at the Armchair Catholic always talk about having their 0.0 run.
Uh-huh.
Maybe we should have a Popish Plot 0.0 run.
Yeah.
It's over before it starts.
That's right.
I don't know. I think we should make it just like a couple of yards. So by the time you take a big step, you're there.
One giant leap.
We do it like the crib, and we start down at the flat lot, and we just don't actually leave the flat lot.
Love it. And I also received the CDs of the original radio show of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is a book that I read when I was a teenager, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
You're required to.
It is.
You got to read that, and you have to read Breakfast of Champions. Those are the rules.
I didn't read Breakfast of Champions. I wasn't required to.
Neither have I.
I wasn't cool, but even the non-cool kids read that.
The only Vonnegut I've ever read is the short story Harrison Bergeron, but I enjoyed that immensely. So,
how did you learn about the bombing of Dresden then?
Big history nerd. We actually talk about World War II around the dinner table in the house I grew up in.
But it's better to read a fictionalized account in which the person is putting himself in as one of his fictional characters, and they're doing a mega analysis of the fictional character.
I'm not disputing that. But I worked with what I had.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
So, but in addition to I turning 42, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the book, also turned 42 this year.
Ah.
Very convenient.
Indeed. So the original radio play, and we have to remind ourselves it was a radio play first, came out in March of 1978, but the book wasn't published until October 1979. Interestingly, I was baptized, so I was born again 3 days before the book was published.
Wow.
So not only is 42 a very significant number in the Hitchhiker's Guide, but the Hitchhiker's Guide itself and I are all 42. So I thought this was a great time to discuss the importance of 42 as the answer to life, the universe, and everything.
Okay.
And we check to make sure that we're not scheduled for demolishing for an interstellar, traffic.
Well, again, the hyperspace bypass was later revealed to be a ruse anyway. But you never know when that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Do we not have to have all the fishes? Because I don't want all the fishes.
To the best of my knowledge, the dolphins have not left, so we're still safe.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, again, it'll happen suddenly overnight. Thanks so long, and thanks for all the fish. But to the last I checked, the dolphins were still here.
Mm.
So we're just going to get one of those rings.
Yeah.
So we can hitch.
In The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
This episode's going to make no sense to anyone who hasn't watched it or read it. Or,
there is an answer to the ultimate question. The answer to life, the universe, and everything was divined when a group of aliens, pan-dimensional beings, constructed a supercomputer called Deep Thought to come up with the answer to life, the universe, and everything. And the answer they came up with was 42. Now, the people who'd built this computer and waited 7.5 million years for it to come up with its answer were deeply unsatisfied. They asked the computer, "What's up?" So the computer explained, "You don't actually know what the question is." Adam, now, of course, partially this is because Adams was as he himself described it, a radical atheist, and an absurdist who didn't really believe there was any meaning to life, the universe, and everything.
Although it was important when doing computer programming, Garbage in, garbage out. You have
Exactly.
to ask it the right question.
Exactly. So, in the story, Deep Thought, the computer, cannot answer the question. Or it cannot come up with a question. It gave the answer, 42. They're unsatisfied with that. But it does not have the capacity to devise
Fathom
the
the
question.
Yeah.
So they build another supercomputer to come up with the question. That supercomputer we know as the planet Earth, which then at the very beginning of the story is demolished to make way for a hyperspace bypass 5 minutes before it was going to complete its work.
Yes.
That
So-
sounds about how it works.
Yeah. So the number 42 is very important to fans of the Hitchhiker's Guide. And lots of people have tried to ascribe different meanings to 42. Some have used binary code, others have used different kinds of mathematics, and Adam's always said, no, it doesn't mean anything. I just enjoy the way that it sounded.
But authors are doing that all the time, but your English teachers won't take that for an answer.
I know!
But what if, just bear with me here, and maybe you're going to get to this, but what if it meant nothing to him because he didn't want it to mean anything, and he was, once again, much like the devisers of Deep Thought, they had an answer, but really didn't comprehend what the question was.
I think there's a good deal of truth to that.
Are you going to tell us things from the Bible? Are you going to read, like, the 42nd chapter of the 42nd book and be like, it means stuff? And then we'll be like, no, that's stupid. You don't do that. That's what the fringy Christians do.
That's superstition.
As much as I like that, in a relatively recent episode, we discussed how the chapters and verses are a medieval insertion into the text, so that wouldn't have a lot of plausibility. Though, of course, the fact that John chapter 6, verse 66 is what it is very intentional. But again, that's because the medievalist who was doing it did that intentionally. No,
I mean, they had nothing better to do all day. I imagine
Oh, they
were
had many things.
They made better things to
They
do.
had prayer, copying the scripture.
And more prayer.
And more prayer.
Also, not dying of plague, which we've all become familiar with of late. So, in the Acts of the Apostles, Paul is physically dragged through the city of Athens to a big rock known as the Areopagus, or Areopagus. Mm-hmm. He says two things. Quoting from chapter 7, well, he says many things, but quoting from chapters, I'm going to read two verses.
Okay.
Quoting from chapter 17, verse 23. For as I was going about and observing objects of your worship, I found also an altar with this inscription, to the unknown God. What therefore you worship in ignorance, that I proclaim to you. So the Athenians had an altar to an unknown God, and Paul is making the claim that the God they seek, they've always been seeking God. The Lord. They just didn't know who he was. So they were seeking him without knowing. And then he continues in verse 27, that they should seek God, and perhaps grope after him and find him, though he is not far away from any one of us. So every human heart, even that of the radical atheist, is searching for God. As our good friend G.K. Chesterton tells us, even a man who knocks on the door of a brothel is, in his own misguided way, looking for God. Because God is the ultimate good, and there is no human being who's not under the oppression of a severe mental illness or a severe addiction to a substance who is not intentionally seeking their own good. So even someone like Douglas Adams, who explicitly denied the existence of God, is still seeking for the good, and that is God.
Okay.
So we turn now to the beginning of the New Testament, to the beginning of St. Matthew's Gospel, which is weird because it's the first book. The first thing you encounter is a genealogy that is impenetrable at first view.
Well, I mean, it mirrors the Old Testament where you start going and then you're like, there's 5 pages of begots here.
There's so much begatting.
And they all have the same 10 names. There's only 25 people alive. Why do they all have the same names?
But once you know more, you understand
Adam
what the
can name
genealogies
every
are telling
animal,
you.
and he can't name different names for his grandkids.
Hey, he was not alive to name these people. So,
Old Testament people had, really long lives. I'm not doing the math. I'm bad at math. We established this.
Yeah. So, in Matthew, we're going to skip all the names and the begatting, because that'll just be an exercise in mispronunciation. Especially since, again, we're reading out of the Dewey Reams here, so the pronunciations are even more different than the ones we're used to from our NAB. Matthew 1:17. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations.
Okay,
Nate,
14.
you're good at numbers.
Yep.
And from David to the carrying away to Babylon, 14 generations.
28.
And from the carrying away to Babylon to Christ, 14 generations.
That would be 42.
That would be 42. Now, the genealogy here in Matthew, it's important to note, differs from the genealogy found in Luke chapter 4. Mm-hmm. But that's because what it really says is this guy, son of this other guy. And in the way that the Hebrews reckon things, they didn't have a word for, distinct words for son, grandson, great-grandson.
Yeah. Just like they didn't have words for uncle or aunt or cousin.
Yeah. So it is not, even though there are 14 generations between, there are 28 generations between David and Christ, it is not inaccurate to call Christ the son of David.
Yeah.
As he so often does. Because even though he's not his direct son, father's son, he is a descendant through his father Joseph of David. Mm-hmm. So it's appropriate to say
and
son.
the actual biology of his mother, because it's, you know, everyone was related to David at this point.
Exactly. Well, again, you had to marry within the greater family. You had to marry within your same tribe. So, the 14 has a symbolic value. And if there are some generations skipped to make that work, it doesn't invalidate it because these people are still son of, even if Matthew was skipped a step or two here and there. The 14 is figures into the Hebrew numerical code DVD. David, David, David.
I bet I'd be better at math in, you know, biblical times, because I'd just be like, the number is 1, 3, 6, 7, 40, 13. It's got to be one of these numbers. The answer is always these numbers.
I'm just going to say these. We only have so many. And there's all combinations there.
I got 7 of them.
Exactly.
That's the perfect amount. You're good.
So that's why Matthew divides it into the 14. But then it all adds up to 42. Now, I'm not saying that Douglas Adams was intentionally drawing this connection.
That seems unlikely.
That
because
seems
even I
highly
didn't
unlikely.
think
It
about
seems
it.
highly unlikely.
Because when I'm reading the Bible, I don't like to do math. Usually there's no math involved in reading the Bible.
But Jesus Christ is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. Because as we know from elsewhere in the scriptures, especially the beginning of John's gospel, everything came to be through him, and nothing came to be that was not made through him. And we cannot build a supercomputer to give us the question. There's a point in the story when, because the earth was destroyed before it completed its work, they think that the answer might be in the head of one of the characters, Arthur Dent.
Who was the last survivor of the planet Earth.
Well, there's also Trillian.
You're right,
But he left later.
She
And
left
the
early,
mice.
Yeah. But again, the mice are, they were observing the program, they're not part of the program. Now, for various other complicated reasons, the experiment had been corrupted along the way, so even if the Earth hadn't been destroyed, it wouldn't have spit out the correct answer. Because
Free will.
Because you can't find the answer in the Earth. The answer is not found in the creation. The answer is found in the Creator.
Okay.
Who then came into the creation to redeem it. So, but again, the Athenians, who had their altar to an unknown god, didn't know the God of Israel. They didn't know that that was the God they were seeking. Douglas Adams, why did 42 appeal to him so much? Not because he thought he was seeking for Jesus Christ, but because he was seeking for the good. God is the ultimate good. So even as he was explicitly rejecting Jesus, he was, in his own way, reaching out for him and trying to find him.
I was wondering how you're going to make this churchy stuff for religious purposes.
We're your,
I mean,
we're
it
your
was
number
just,
one source for
it's
it.
my birthday. I'd be like, that's fine.
So, 42. The answer to life, the universe, and everything. Jesus Christ. The answer to life, the universe, and everything. Comment below if you feel that I've been horrifically disrespectful to Douglas Adams, or if you have a great recipe for a pan-galactic gargle blaster.
Or comment below
that's
if
a
you
horrible idea.
Or perhaps you're one of that group that would suggest that his tying something as holy as the Bible back to Douglas Adams is disrespectful to the Bible. You know.
Douglas Adams was made in the image and likeness of God.
Absolutely.
He may not have acknowledged this, but it's still true.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just I'm accepting the fact that there
if
may
you,
be.
If you took offense to this in any way,
please comment below.
Maybe you took offense to this in multiple ways.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe they make a list.
Perhaps you felt that this video was too long and convoluted, and
That's what editing is for. So, give this episode a like, subscribe to our channel, ring the church bell so you're notified when the next episode of The Plot is uploaded, and until then, remember to
live your faith,
Love your faith.
share that love.
and
42.
always know where your towel is.
It's over there. And our book of this stuff is over there.
Yep.
It's right next to Shiro's pony.
Yes.
But she doesn't have her wings anymore.
Oh.
Which is not as bad as Catra's cat that lost all its fuzz.